Welcome to the Creative Tides podcast, where expert insight flows into everyday creative spaces. We bring you conversations with leaders, innovators, and artists, making high-level ideas accessible and practical for your local context. Discover more episodes and upcoming events at www.creative-tides.com. We're glad you're here. All right. Well, hey, Dan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Could you tell us who you are, what you do? Who are you?
Yep, my name is Dan Alber. I live in Nashville currently. I'm born and raised in Nashville. And yeah, I've spent the past 10 years touring as a bass player in a variety of different genres and spaces. And I've kind of found myself landing over the past couple of years in the worship space, which was what I initially set out to do. So that's really, really cool. And I run a like online resource company called Ableton Is Confusing Sometimes to ideally help churches run playback effectively. And really, for me, it's just an opportunity to get to meet other playback guys and chat Ableton, which is really cool. And then I run a company based out of Nashville called Spacewalk Live that does like music direction and show design for a variety of clients, both in CCM and worship, and then in pop and country. And yeah, that's basically me. I like being outdoors, and I do triathlons as my hobby.
Cool.
And yeah, just I like having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So, how did you get started in music? Was that always something you wanted to do? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I love this story. So I was so glad to see that it was in your email. So okay, my dad actually moved to Nashville in the 80s to pursue country music. He ended up meeting my mom and letting that go and pursuing other things. But so I grew up in a musical family, and for the first like 12, 13 years of my life, I was like the non-musical one. I had no interest in learning. My sister played piano. My dad was like the worship leader at church, just no interest whatsoever in doing it. And my sister was thinking of going to ORU in Tulsa, so Oral Roberts University. And as part of the, I forget what they call it, like not initiation, but whatever the thing is where you go in the spring and you like tour the campus and all that. We went to that. So I would she's 5 years older than me, so I would have been in seventh grade. And I tagged along because they weren't going to leave me at home. And part of the deal, the orientation, that's what it's called. Part of the orientation was you had to go to a chapel service.
Mm.
And I went to the chapel service, and Carrie was leading worship. I as like a I don't really know how that worked out, if she was there as like a guest or what the deal was, but she was leading worship, and I very vividly remember standing in the audience thinking like whatever this thing is, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life like pursuing. I really hadn't been in a room yet um with like a where whatever happens when people start singing, whatever happens there, like I hadn't been in a room yet where that had happened. We had gone to a church that was a bit more, it wasn't traditional, but it certainly wasn't like modern either. So I really wasn't familiar with, Hillsong and all these songs that were coming out. And because I really wasn't into music, I hadn't really gone to any shows, maybe one or two. So it was really my first experience being in like a worship service, experiencing that thing. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I saw it and was like, I'm gonna whatever this is, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life pursuing being a part of this. And then, of course, the like really part of the story that I love is that through that, like it ended up being like, oh, when I was like 18, it's like, what's your dream thing to do? And it's like, I want to play bass for Kari Jobe. And that's like the most insane thing you could say. It's like, there's no way that's gonna happen. And then, 10 years later, I'm in my sixth year, I think, of
Wow.
playing with them, which is just like an absolute dream. Because yeah, I started playing music like because I saw Carrie lead worship. So yeah, that's how I got started. And then basically, I think that was on like a Tuesday. We drove home on Wednesday, and on Thursday, I picked up a bass and have basically been playing since.
Just like self-taught.
Yeah, self-taught. Probably should have taken some lessons. Probably should be taking lessons now. But yeah, self-taught. My dad certainly helped play a role in that. And I remember I had like the Hal Leonard, how to play bass, something like that, that showed me some stuff. And yeah, that's basically how it got started. I've just been making it up since then.
Was bass your dad's, like one of your dad's primary instruments?
No, he was a guitar player, primarily like acoustic guitar player, songwriter, that sort of thing. So
So what made you gravitate towards the bass?
somebody had given me a bass like maybe 2 years before. I don't know why. I don't remember that part of the story. I
Pathetic.
was not interested in playing yet, but somebody gave me one and I had it. And so I guess it was at home. And I think if I know myself, I probably wanted to learn bass because I didn't know anybody else who played bass. And
Mm.
like I didn't want to just learn guitar because my dad learned guitar. Like if I know myself, there was probably a bit of wanting to be like a bit on the outside with it.
Oh, so it was kind of your own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually don't really know why. I had one for some reason and it was there. And yeah, I picked it up and played it. It's wild to tell this story because I have a very visual memory of sitting down at my desk in my bedroom and opening up the book and not really wanting to and thinking like, no, I'm gonna do this. Like I decided that I'm gonna learn to do this. And then that we were sort of off to the races. Like I can still see in my head looking down at the book, just being like, okay, this is the E string. Like, cool, let's go. Funny.
Would you say that that experience at that orientation was that sort of like a catalyst for your personal faith as well? Like you mentioned you'd kind of been at church, but you hadn't really been in that type of environment of like corporate singing and worship. Like, did that sort of take you down down that journey too?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I certainly grew up in a very like Christian charismatic household.
Mhm.
I do think I don't know if I can directly say like yes, that moment did. I can definitely say that music and worship music has consistently played a very integrated role into my faith in that there have been times where, you know, like everybody, I'm a normal person. There are times like who happens to have a wild job, but there are times where you're 100% like, yes, whatever you ask God, I'm doing. And then there are other times where you're like, I'm tired and I want to go home. And I will say, like, the experience, for us, yes, we're playing and um, there's an expectation to be professional and to remember the songs and there's all this stuff, but also I'm having a worship experience as well. So, and what's nice about that is there are times where it's like it's almost out of your choice. It's like I don't really want to do this. Like I don't if it was up to me, I maybe wouldn't spend 2 hours like chatting with God, but I have to go do this thing. So here we are. So there's always been this like sort of tie where that to an extent, and I hope this doesn't come across wrong, but like to an extent, my work has almost um like grown that in its own unique way and continued to bring me back to that, even when there's been times where like I don't, I'm not sure where I'm at on this particular bit of this, or this is confusing me right now, or this is hard. Showing up and being a musician in the worship space has like continually brought me along that journey. Does that make sense? I don't want that to sound like I don't love God or like I love God with my whole heart. And I'm also a normal person who, like has a normal life and has struggles and has times, I'm gonna stop talking now. You can edit this.
Oh, no, it's good. I feel that. I mean, I'm a worship pastor at a local church, and so for a lot of people in ministry, and I'm sure for you, playing these shows sometimes night after night, not
Yeah.
shows, leading worship night after night, there's probably that same feeling of like Sunday is always coming, or the next worship night is always coming, and you have to be ready. And it's not like you can change the schedule or just decide, I don't want to show up for this one. Um, and had to learn how to both facilitate and lead worship as well as genuinely be worshiping myself, um, and push through things like I'm tired. I mean, life doesn't stop. Like I could be sorting through, something heavy happening in our family, or maybe physically I'm not feeling up to it. And like I always come back to the thought that God is not worthy of worship based on how I feel or based on my emotions, which I'm really grateful because my emotions are like this. And
Yeah.
so if my worship to God was based on that, it would be just so wavering and up and down. But just coming to that space of God is worthy of the worship and the praise, just period. And
Mhm.
then whatever I can bring to that, if it is me being tired, if it is me being drained or emotional, like whatever I can bring. And then what's beautiful and my favorite part of worship is that this thing that is all for Him, bringing God the glory, and us individually as well as corporately, or, room full of people, whatever, arena full of people, the whole focus is bringing glory to God. But in His generosity, like He does share that moment with us. And I have found He has met me in that place so many times, which He doesn't have to. Like
Right.
He has every right. He's God. He has every right to just take the praise and worship and just like relish in that. And I think that He does. There's that scripture that talks about how God, He is enthroned on the praises of His people. And so I think there is that element of He just loves it and He's taking it and He's communing with us, but He's also communing with us. And so in those moments, I feel connected with Him, or maybe He gives me a word that's encouraging and speaks to the situation I'm going through, or maybe it's a word for another person that I don't know what they're going through. And then I share it afterwards. And it's like, how could you have known that? Like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And so I just, I guess I say all that to have some camaraderie with you in that of that's okay if you're not like feeling it to worship, like step into those spaces anyway, whether you're facilitating or you're just there, because God will graciously still meet you in that place, which I think is so amazing.
I can't tell you how many times I've stood on stage. There's one particular Cody song, and I can't tell you how many times I've stood on stage and played it and just said to God, like, hey, it's me. Like, man, I'm
Probably it's
frustrated
me.
right now. I'm tired. Whatever the thing may be. We've been gone a long time. Uh, but I'm still here. Like, I still want to chat, you know, and just like had a conversation. Like, yeah, I want to be cautious saying this because what I'm about to say, because like I don't want it to sound like I think the world revolves around me, but I also cannot tell you how many times I've stood on a stage and thought, God, you must have sorted all of this just for me. Like just for me to stand here and be reminded of who you are, of the fact that you love me, of the fact that you've got me. Like I'm pretty convinced that I mean, yeah, I'm pretty convinced that the like at times that the whole thing was just put together so that I could go meet with God and be reminded of his faithfulness and who he is to me. And obviously, like, that's a crazy statement. And there are other bits of that. And, we're getting to lead people in worship and play a part in that. But also, I'm 100% convinced that I have showed up in rooms and they were entirely just designed for me to be reminded that God is who he says he is.
Yeah. What are some of those songs? You mentioned a Cody Carnes song. What are some of those songs that just like always hit different for
And
you?
Run to the Father always just smashes with me. Like, which is so funny because I mean, we've played it so many times, and it's one of the songs in the set that I know what to expect from. Like a lot of the songs, you really have to be just eyes wide open, ready for any arrangement change or anything to happen. And then there's one or two where it's like we kind of know how that's going to go. Run to the Father is one of those, and yeah, I can't tell you how many times like we've gotten to the chorus and just like, man, this is what I needed to be reminded of. Like, I think it was my heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. Like, just in so many different ways. There are times where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just tired or whatever, and it's like, or I'm frustrated or I don't understand this. It's like, ah, my heart, I still need a surgeon. I still need a friend. I earlier this year I was dealing with like some medical stuff with my actual physical heart that was like really concerning. And I remember standing on stage being like, ah, this is kind of ironic. Here I am again. And my physical heart needs a surgeon and my soul still needs a friend. And like it's just being like continually reminded of that thing. So I guess I say all this to say, like, I don't know if this is helpful for anybody else, but I count myself to be the luckiest person in the world because I swear that that song was written for me. I swear there have been entire tours put together just to remind me
Yeah.
that God's faithful.
Yeah. I think that one of those songs for me is the very first Kari Jobe song that I heard was "You Are For Me,"
Mm,
and Kari is my very like favorite worship leader, favorite artist. And so when you agreed to talk with me, I freaked out a little bit since you know her.
uh,
But "You Are For Me" was the first song that I heard, and it was kind of similar where it was like, I think this song was written for me, not by this artist, but like it feels like from God directly, like just singing that. I mean, it's singing scripture, really, just that confirmation of God is for you, like he goes before you, he goes behind you, like he is with you. And I first heard that song when I was in high school, 15 plus years ago, but still to this day, like that song will bring me to tears every time and just take me to a different place of connection with the Lord, as well. So that does bring up a question. You'd kind of mentioned some songs playing with your eyes open to be ready for changes. What does that look like in a show? Like, is the MD kind of calling changes out on the fly? Are some songs, we're doing it this way for sure, others are more up for interpretation?
yeah, that's a great question. And one I wish I knew the answer to. So there are certainly songs where I would say 9 times out of 10, they get played the same way. That would be in Carrie and Cody's world, it would be The Blessing.
Mm.
Run to the Father is one of those. Take You at Your Word is probably one of those. And then beyond that, Firm Foundation is mostly one of those. Beyond that, everything is pretty up for grabs.
Mm.
So yes, it's sort of a collaborative effort. Jessica Stropko is the MD for the band leader, and Cody also calls a lot of stuff. So everybody has a talk back. Cody and Carrie both have talkbacks on their mics, which allow them to chat with just us. Um, and so it's a combination of somebody calling things, somebody saying, I want to go, Cody or Carrie saying, I want to go here. We were in Montana a couple nights ago, and Cody was like throwing up some hand signs for chords. There are also things where it's like we've sort of done the flow moment enough where the flow moment is going to change night to night, but we do sort of have some tricks in our back pocket as far as dynamically. So, an example of that might be like doing what we call sky cymbals. So, all the low end drops out, and it's like eighths on the cymbals. Um, Something like that. Or like there's some maybe tricks we have in our back pocket as a band. We are all just kind of looking, waiting, giving a nod, be like, okay, we're doing this. We've all been playing together for 5 years at this point, so there is a lot of unspoken that's happening. And then I suppose there are also moments where I know, okay, this intro is probably going to be looped, or this interlude to the bridge, we're probably going to loop for a while and then land in the bridge. And it's just sort of reading signs, maybe catching a hand signal. And then hoping for the best.
So do you guys practice those spontaneous moments in rehearsals?
The better question would be, do we practice? Which
Okay.
the answer is no. No. Occasionally we'll have a rehearsal ahead of something, but very little. Yeah, honestly, whatever level of flow that you would think it is, it's actually probably more. An
Mm.
example being we played a song a couple nights ago that we found out we were playing on the flight over. And then so we all learned it the next morning, played it in sound check together once. And then it kind of ended up becoming like the thing that turned into the flow moment. So we ended up playing versions of it for like 15 minutes. So it's when I say it's off the rails, it's definitely off the rails. And yeah, there's definitely not a ton of rehearsal going on.
So, expectation of you guys as musicians is it here's a list of songs we will slash might do, learn them on your own time, memorize them, be ready for sound check and the show just to play whatever. And are you guys leaning into like memorizing chords, but then also national number system? Like, what is that workflow like?
So, okay, it's very much a song bank that were sent. And then as the guy running playback, there's maybe 5 or 6 songs that I keep always, even if they're not included in the song bank, just because I have gotten in trouble before by not having them in the session. Yes, it is the number system exclusively. Keys are changing constantly, sometimes in the middle of the night.
Mm.
Uh, Even some of the bigger songs, like A Firm Foundation or The Blessing, definitely The Blessing will either play in B flat or B firm. We've played in, I think, what is it? I think it's originally B flat. We've played it in B flat, A, G. We've played it in D before when Carrie leads it. Like, so there's definitely an expectation to be able to understand the number system and just kind of jump around. Yeah, keys can change 10 seconds before we play the song. Um, and then yeah, there's an expectation to learn the song. I'll say it's different than like maybe pop gig I've been on where there's a line and a part and you're expected to show up with the tone prepared and the line. And it's we're definitely painting with pretty broad strokes as far as individual parts. Obviously the lead lines are there, but beyond that, it's going to be really dictated by how the night feels, where we're at in the set. And I'll say Carrie and Cody are the best at like they really leave a lot up to us.
Mm.
Um, which is really cool and gives a lot of freedom to change depending on where we're at in the night.
Yeah, and I'm sure that helps it to not reach the point of feeling stale, where you're just playing the exact same things over and over and over.
I will say a Cody and Carrie show has never felt stale. It definitely always feels like I have to be so present, like but in the best way. Honestly, it's like so. I mentioned this a second ago. I run a company called Spacewalk Live. We do music direction and show design, and so in that world, it's very much like locked in. You're gridded. You're on time code. There's video content, lighting design, special effects. It's like when we build the show, this is exactly how it's going to be played for the foreseeable future. And so it's really nice for me as a player, like selfishly, to then go get to do something that's on the complete other end of the spectrum,
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, we might play this song. Like, where it's like, okay, at song 3, we're either going to play this song or this song. And yeah, we'll see when we get there. Or maybe most infamously, hey, we're gonna just when we get up there, roll up a pad in D flat and we'll see what happens. Which is like, yeah, it's so fun to get to sort of scratch that other side of your brain where it's just like pure chaos.
Yeah. Have you been part of the recording studio side with them?
Yeah, I have. I played on a handful of different things for them. The biggest project would have been the Blessing record,
Mhm.
which was I had been pre-COVID, I had been playing with this pop artist named Lynn and Stella, and COVID happened. Oh, sorry. So I was kind of splitting time between Lennon, and then when I was available, I would jump on Carrie gigs. She wasn't doing a ton at the time, and then they asked me to play on the record, and that's kind of when the thing shifted, where it's like, okay, I'm doing Cody and Carrie full time.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, which was like such a one again, like talking about the thing where I swear God sometimes orchestrates these things just for me. And again, this is a ridiculous statement, and I don't really mean it entirely truthful, but if you're asking just me, I'm pretty positive that the Blessing record was made so that I, in June of 2020, could go spend 2 weeks with my best friends in the mountains, in the presence of God, like meeting with God firsthand. Uh, yeah, with no distractions. Like I would almost swear that that whole experience was just for me to meet with God. Um, so yeah, to answer the question, that's a long answer, but to answer the question, yes, I have played on a handful of different things. A lot of live stuff over the years has made it onto Passion Records, or there's like a Live in Europe record, or random stuff on YouTube. And then my favorite would be, yeah, I got to play on the Blessing album, which is really, really special.
Yeah. Is the studio a similar workflow like the live shows where you get to throw in your own creativity and parts, or is that a setting where the parts are written and they want you to learn those specific parts?
Yeah, no, I mean, seriously, like Cody and Carrie are the best at being, at like trusting who they have brought on and being open-handed. Certainly we had plans on the Blessing, um, but I was able to play what I thought was best, and I think everybody would say the same thing. And a lot of that record is proper spontaneous, like again, where we maybe have some like, hey, we want to start here and we want to get here, but everything in between, let's just kind of see what happens.
Yeah. That's so cool having that insight, especially at a live show. Um, because you do go to it as an attendee that you're going to a worship night. Like I have never gone to a Cody Carnes or a Kari Jobe show with the thought of like I'm going to just be a consumer and receive it as a concert, that I would with
Yeah.
maybe a secular touring artist. I always go in with the thought of like, I know they're going to lead me in worship. And so to have that insight that they truly are kind of feeling what's happening in the room and they're allowing themselves to be, and all of you guys, to be led by the Spirit of what does this specific room need? Where is the Holy Spirit moving? What is the Lord speaking? Where do we really need to dig in here? That just it honestly gives me, I already had such great respect for them, but it honestly gives me just such a deeper respect of like they are worship leaders and they're not just there to perform, like they are there to lead in worship.
I kind of hope they never listen to this because I'm going to be embarrassed saying this, but they are the real deal.
Mm.
Genuinely, like the absolute real deal. I have nothing but incredible things to say. And I can say like what you see both like in character and in person, and also the sort of on stage middle of the night worship experience like is the real deal. We're in they and then we by nature of following them are in it to see what happens and to follow God and to trust the Holy Spirit and to ideally bring the best thing for the room, to make space for God to do what he does. And I will even admit there are times where it's frustrating. Like I'll be the first to admit this. Like it's frustrating. It can be frustrating to be on a flight to wherever and or to be like, oh, what songs are we playing this week? Like I just want to know so I can like relax. But I'll say every time I feel that frustration, we end up going to play the song that I was frustrated, like having to learn last minute, and it's every single time the right call. Like it ends up absolutely being the thing in the night that the people needed. Um, Time and time again. So over time, I've learned to just like let go a bit and let go of even the expectation on myself to play something perfectly or to absolutely nail something and just instead trust like, hey, I'm here to help facilitate where Cody and Carrie believe that the Holy Spirit's leading them. And my job is to follow that. And
Yeah.
if, and to trust like when they say, I think we're supposed to do this thing, to say, great, let's go do it and figure out how to do it to the best of our ability. So it's not to say that, yeah, at times it's not like, man, I would love to just check out of this. But it's also been like the biggest gift to get to see this thing happen where they feel like the Holy Spirit's telling them something, and then it ends up being this moment that somebody in the audience needed.
Yeah. Okay, the burning question.
Yeah.
You went to this orientation and Carrie Jobe was leading worship. And
Yeah.
now fast forward, you're on tour with her leading worship. How did you get there? How did that happen?
I have no idea. At the time, man, I don't know. This is like the same. This is gonna be the theme of this podcast. Like as I'm loving talking about this because I forget to like really be grateful for some like you forget, it's been 15 years. Um, but this is another thing where I'm gonna say, like, I swear God did that one just for me. Like, uh I have no idea. We at the time I started going to this church in Nashville called The Belonging, and they were there at the time as well. And I just kind of maybe met them in passing, like both serving on the worship team, but I didn't really know them. I was, I think in 2016, I must have been like 20 years old. They asked me to come play some dates with them. I was incredibly underqualified and it didn't go particularly great. Um, I mean, yeah, to clue you into that, there's like a funny story that we still joke about where Cody went into How Great Is Our God the very first time I ever played with them. And I looked at the drummer and said, like, don't come in. I don't know what this song is, which is like, it was just a different era. And I had a lot of catching up to do. Um, yeah, so I met them through that. And then it just kind of slowly like became a thing where it's like, oh, we're doing this thing together. Okay, now we're doing this next thing. And then I got asked to play on The Blessing, and then because of COVID, I found out in the beginning of 2021 that I thought we would start touring again with Lennon. And I found out early that year that we couldn't start touring again. We were going to take the year off. And so I sent Cody a message and was like, "Hey, I'm hearing these rumors of the Blessing tours. I'd love to do them. We just found out we're not touring." And yeah, they called me and were like, "Oh, like we're on this drive right now, and we're trying to figure out like we've said we're going to do these tours, but we don't know who the band is because COVID changed everything, and you're like it was perfect timing for you to send that text, and you're the first person we have on. Like, okay, great. Like we'll have you out there. We don't know who the rest of the band's going to be. Like, we'll see. We'll go do it." Yeah, again, my answers today are so long. I guess I'm in a chatty mood, but I guess that's kind of how it came about. I really have no idea. Like there just was no, had I have tried to put that one together myself, there's no way it would have happened.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say what I hear in that is it wasn't anything that was self-seeking. Like you were just you had that moment at that university being led in worship, and you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. And it wasn't, I mean, the ultimate pipeline dream was to lead worship with Kari Jobe, but in the moment you were like, I'm just gonna pursue this regardless of what happens. This is what I'm supposed to do. And so your journey was just, I mean, truly orchestrated by the Lord, clearly, but it was just so organic of you didn't, go and campaign and try to like force your way into these opportunities. Like you just truly made yourself available. And then that continued to open door after door after door. And so that's really encouraging to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you knew me in like in real life, you would know that um if I had to go campaign, there's no chance that would have worked out because I'm just so bad at stuff like that. Like I'm naturally pretty introverted and I'm pretty shy and like uh yeah, there's just no way that would have ever worked out unless like God was specifically like, I'm gonna make a way for this because I just would have never made a good enough first impression for it to work out.
Uh, that's fair. I feel like I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned,
I run a business teaching Ableton. I'm certainly not the most socially adept person. Like,
well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was just going to ask you about, you mentioned during one of your shows that you kind of are in charge of the playback rig, and then you started this thing called Ableton Is Confusing Sometimes, which, yes, it is. Tell us what that is and talk about how is confusing, but it doesn't have to be as confusing as we might think it is.
love it. I mean, it was named that because it is like it just straight up is. So yeah, another thing that has been such a gift and started as a complete accident, which seems to be the MO here. Last year, we got home, I think, on like a Sunday morning from something, and we were gonna be taking a lot of time off from touring. And transparently, I was a bit stressed about like, okay, this has been my main source of income. Like, what am I gonna do
Mhm.
in this meantime? And I also at the time was getting really into cycling and triathlon, and I wanted to pursue it competitively. And to do that, I was going to need to figure out how to, again, transparently make an income without that was less like time for hire and it didn't require me to be in person. So I made a post on my Instagram story that was like, hey, would you, would anybody be interested if I did like, to jump on Zoom and like chat about Ableton for an hour? Uh, it got like 250 responses. Looking back, I think it got so many responses because I didn't say that I was going to be charging for it. So I think people thought I was just gonna jump on Zoom and hang out, which honestly, yeah, it would have been a blast anyways. But so I was like, oh wow, this is like way out of control. So I came home. I know it was a Sunday. I came home and I made like the world's worst landing page that just said like, and I couldn't think of a name. And I was like, well, Ableton's confusing sometimes, so let's just call it that. And I think I figured out like what Calendly was and how to make like a booking link and a schedule. And the next morning was just like, hey, like if you guys want to do that, I got way too many DMs, like just do it this way. And it ended up such a gift. It ended up being like 2 months. I think it was April and May of last year of 2024. I spent like 8 hours a day on Zoom, meeting random people, just being like, here's what I do, here's how I do it, this is why I do it this way. It ended up being like just the coolest thing ever. And then I we I was starting to get busier again. So there was definitely like a cutoff on the like our Zoom meetings where the calendar closed. And then I think like a month later, I relaunched with the business, or sorry, with the website and some courses and all the sort of fun stuff. And yeah, to be honest, like Ableton is confusing and running playback is confusing and it can be a bit of a hot topic, especially in church about how to flow with it and whether or not it keeps you too restrained. And by nature of playing with Cody and Kari and sort of that platform, I get the luxury of when I begin to do something and then do it consistently and tell people about it, it sort of becomes, whether it's true or not, it becomes the sort of method that this is how you run playback in church. And again, it's just things that I made up to solve a need. And yeah, so it was like an opportunity for me to then go share that stuff and hopefully make it easier on people and share like, hey, this is what we're doing. Over time, it has definitely um, moved away. Like, I don't ever want it to look like it's Cody and Kari's bass players thing. Like, I don't want it to seem like it's hinging on them. And I always want to be respectful of them. So over time, I've made a concentrated effort to maybe move it away and make it more general, like playback for church. But yeah, at its core, it's just hopefully a resource that people can look at and it will make their job easier. Even if like when I'm chatting with people on Ableton, I find that so many people are doing things either the same way I am or really, really close. And they've just stumbled upon that like through experience. And I think a lot of times people just need somebody to say, like, you're doing it right. You're crushing it. This is how I would do it. Like, this is absolutely, you're nailing this. Keep going. And they just need that like extra reassurance to say, like, no, no, this is it. Like you're doing it great. Here's maybe one thing I would tweak. I find that most people, they don't need like a massive overhaul.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, they just need somebody who maybe has been there a year or so, or like a couple years longer to say, like, yeah, nailing it. That's how you do it. Crushing.
Yeah, it's such a massive program. I had never used it personally until my current job, and it was what our church was using to run tracks and click and all that. Um, but at the time, we were like manually putting in each track and each piece, and we were also automating our slides, and every slide had its own cue that you'd have to drag and drop. And it was, I know, not the most efficient workflow, but it was really overwhelming to try to learn that. And I ended up switching to Playback by Multitracks, which has been a lot more user friendly. But I do have some interest. My husband and I both have interest in kind of the recording side, and we have our own little like home studio. And he's more proficient in Ableton, and it's one of those things that you're like, I know this is so powerful, and I feel like I just barely have the tip of the iceberg understanding of it. But I've also found that so often in local churches, if you are a creative in any capacity, you get all of this other stuff put on your plate. Like, oh, you know how to play an instrument. You must also know how to run Ableton and how to run sound, and you can do graphic design. And it's like all these other things get put on the worship pastor's plate or the production director. And so to have a resource like Ableton is confusing sometimes, where it's like, let me just look at what you're doing or explain, hey, here's what you actually need, and maybe you don't need to focus on all this other stuff, but for your setup, here's what you need. That just takes such a, I think, a load off people's shoulders.
I love that you brought that up because I have not been public about this yet. It's fine for this to come out, but actually AICS is changing. So the name is unfortunately leaving, and it's going to be rebranded in September. It's changing, and we're actually, again, I won't go into all the details, but starting in the fall and then especially into spring of next year, we're actually launching a new um, sort of resource platform with the company that will ideally solve the issue, which is an issue I'm so passionate about. That a lot of times in these smaller, let's say 200 to 2000 size church, you have one person who is both the worship leader, music director, they get roped into the tech director. And most importantly, they're also the pastor of
Mm.
the worship team. And their plate gets so filled up with deciding what song to do, what key to do it in, how to do it, what software should we use to run it, how do we set up lyrics, do we want video content, like just this okay, now who's going to play this part, who's the band, can they be there, this massive list of things that through no fault of their own they run out of time to do what's really the important thing and say, hey, John, guitar player, how we doing,
Yeah.
you need help, what's going on? How can I help? So I won't go into all the details yet, but be on the lookout for it because it's coming. It's it's hard launching in the spring of next year, but a platform that will ideally take most of that off of the plates of these people and make them give them room to just like do the important thing, which is to pass.
That's awesome. Yeah, I look forward to hearing more about that, and we'll for sure platform that on Creative Tides, and maybe even talk with you more after it launches next spring.
We'll run this back. I'm really excited about it.
I would love to get your insight again, talking about kind of that local church context. So you've kind of played the wide gamut of playing in churches as well as now playing in arenas, touring. What advice or encouragement would you have to those who are musicians in the local church or maybe involved in the tech side? Like, what encouragement could you give them? Just kind of bringing it more a local focus.
Yeah, I want to make sure I give like a thoughtful answer here.
I just dropped a super heavy question. That's fine.
Oh, it's great. I mean, and I don't want to sound cliche saying this, but I believe it with the bottom of my heart. It's all about the people.
Mm,
Um, Everybody can play, like, and everybody can learn a skill. Um, and it's yeah, it's all about like making sure the people are good. You're especially at the local church level, and I have both been, I use this word lightly, but a quote unquote victim of this. And I've also been guilty of this uh, at times. Like, you're asking a lot from somebody to give their entire Sunday morning
mm,
to volunteer or a part-time thing to do this job. You're asking so much. And of course, you're serving the church and you want to be there. But at the end of the day, like you are still asking for a big investment.
yeah.
And so I think it's even a reminder for me, like it's all about the people and first and foremost, making sure that they're being pastored and cared for, and that their needs are being met, and that they know they're cared for beyond their ability, behind their instrument or their tech ability. Like, yeah, I don't know if I know exactly how to articulate that yet, but like I just and again, I'm both responsible for this at times and guilty of it. But it's all about the people. Um, there's so many people who can fill a role and fill it well. And I think first and foremost, the thing is always to make sure that they know that they're cared for and loved on and appreciated and um, shepherd, and that they know like their worth is not dictated by their ability to do something. Their worth is dictated by who God made them to be. And that's the end of the statement.
Mhm.
Um, and nothing changes that. Like missing a cue or playing a bum note or whatever possible thing can go wrong. Been there, done that. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that we are loving on the people around us and growing closer to God. And I think it's so important. And I think there are people who do amazing jobs of this. And this isn't like me calling anybody out. This is me, like, even just reminding myself, like, the most important thing is the people.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a cop out of an answer. Like, but it is genuinely like what I believe. And again, it's so easy to sit here on this side of that and say that and really come across as like so noble and like it's all about the people, man. And also be so guilty of getting that at times. But at the end of the day, like you can strip, it's all a luxury, and
Mhm.
you can strip all of that away. Like the whole point is that we're meeting the people we love and serving the people around us and loving on God.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole story.
Yeah. I think that's so good. And, you know, the things that we get wrapped up in the tech side, all of that, if you're a creative, that can be really fun. Um, and especially like for me, I like to solve the puzzle. And so even if it's something I have no experience in, like I'll be on YouTube, ChatGPT, Google, whatever, like I want to figure it out. And then there's such a sense of accomplishment once I do. But that often leads to like those things are so tedious and so time consuming. And it's really easy to slip down that rabbit hole and be like, oh, I found myself in this place where I was at our church until 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, okay, my ministry, first and foremost, is to spending time with the Lord, spending time with my family, and then serving the people that are on my team. And then all, like you said, all this other stuff is extra. And it's kind of that I guess cliche mantra of like all that stuff will still be there tomorrow morning. Like leave it, just sleep on it, step away from it, go be with people and prioritize them. And all that other stuff is still going to be there when you get back. But you aren't able to get that time back with people. Or, if there's somebody going through something, you aren't going to be able to, hey, can you pause your crisis? I need to figure out this, the playback isn't firing like it's supposed to. Can you just hold on? Like, no, that opportunity to sit with someone well and to walk through, be it grief or celebrating something, whatever it might be, like you have to prioritize that first and foremost. And I love hearing your experience of working with Kari and Cody. Like it sounds like that truly is their first priority, and that the music is filtered through how can we serve the people in the room, again, like where's the Lord leading, but also you getting to have that creativity and literally play into those spontaneous moments. Like that's a form of them serving you and serving the fellow musicians on your team. And so I love how that is modeled to you, but that's also, it sounds like, something that you are really intentional, to try to model to others as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, trying to get better at it,
Oh,
it's so easy to say things like that. But I think, yeah, like I always want to be really um respectful and like honoring of the responsibility of going on stage and leading a room in worship. Like I want to make sure that I do that with as much excellence as I can, and that I'm always respecting of it and honoring it because it is a responsibility.
Mhm.
Um, and also it's just music. Like it'll be there. It'll be there tomorrow. Yeah, it's really not that serious. Like obviously, again, I want to be honoring of the moment and honoring of worship in the room and honoring of the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
But then when you get into the finer details, like I played a bum note or I really need to get this thing done so that it can be ready for this. It's just music. And when it comes down to people and what they need and crisis, and yeah, I love what you're saying about grief a second ago. And sometimes it's as simple as just sitting with somebody, not saying anything, just letting them know you're there.
Yeah.
Um,
And
it's
they're undistracted too.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, a huge one. Yeah, all this stuff, it'll be there. It'll be there later. And I don't know, maybe that's not the flashiest thing to say, or like maybe it's I don't know. I think it's easy, like yeah, maybe as the person who like gets to go out and do it, I should be saying something else because it's of course always so easy for us. Like it's to be on this side of it and say like, oh, do it this way. Like it's all about the people. Don't whatever. And like, yeah, we're also the ones getting to go out and do the fun stuff.
Mhm.
So it's of course easy to like, say whatever about it. But I think it's a reminder for me too, like, oh, that stuff's so great and it's so cool and it's so wonderful to be in a room with a ton of people and have them all sort of united on this one focus. And that's all, we get to go to cool cities and that's all an incredible thing that I'm so grateful for. But if you strip it all back, it's just about the people
Yeah.
and sitting with the people. And I know for us, a lot of times, or for me as a musician, and I'm going on a tangent here, but a lot of times it really is more often about the people that I'm out with than it is about the people in front of us.
Mm.
Um, Again, I think it might be different if I was an artist, but I know like the best thing I can do, there's not really going to be a ton of interaction between me and the person in the fifth row.
Yeah.
There's going to be a ton of interaction between me and the guitar player.
Yeah.
And my role out there is to support the people around me and let them know they're cared for, let them know I love them, and let them know that I got their back.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so maybe to go back on the thing, if I could encourage like worship teams, especially the people in the worship teams who are in the quote unquote, like maybe more backstage area or like the quote unquote hidden area,
Mm.
I would encourage you, like, I really do believe that your main role is to serve the people that are standing next to you.
Mm.
And there are other people their role is to serve the people in the room.
Yeah.
But my role is to support those people in serving those other people. And that is both true, for the 60 minutes or 90 minutes that you get to do it. And it's even more true for the 23 hours that you spend in a hotel or on an airport or in a coffee shop or,
Mm.
at Connect Group or, whatever the sort of church equivalent to touring is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. I love that answer because I feel like it at any level, any circumstance, any experience, like that's the foundation. That whether you're leading worship to a room of 5 people or 50,000, like it's still about people and loving them well. And as you love them well, like that's a way to love the Lord and to serve Him and be a reflection of Him. And I don't think, I mean, you mentioned, I hope this isn't a cop out answer. I don't think it's a cop out answer at all. Like, I love that is still, that is still your foundation and the first thing that came to your head, even with, the experiences that you've had, that it still boils down to that. So I think that's really, really encouraging.
And again, my disclaimer on it is so guilty of forgetting that, and like that's a reminder to me first and foremost.
For sure.
Yeah, but but I do believe it.
Yeah.
And that is that's the direction I'm heading. Even though
Yeah.
I don't always do it perfectly, it's the direction I'm heading.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important, that you're conscious of that, you're mindful of that, and you're continuing to work towards that. And the Lord doesn't ask us to be perfect. He just asks us to try. So
That's such a good reminder. Uh, Obviously, like off stage, but it's a good reminder on stage too. I think
yeah.
the pursuit was never for perfection.
Yeah.
I wish I had a really flashy one-liner to go after that as far as what the pursuit is, but I don't. I just know it's not perfection.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. I have a few fun questions to kind of wrap up our time together.
I'm having a blast. This is so fun.
Good. I'm so glad. Can you talk us through your rig rundown? What type of bass do you play? Pedals, your in-ears, all of that fun stuff.
Yep. Bass. My main there's a handful around here, but my main bass that I tour with is a April 1996, which happens to be my birth month and birth year.
Oh,
Um, Fender Mexican P bass. So nothing flashy at all. It's been modified a bit over the years. There's these pickups in it called Flying Mojo, and the bridge is like more weighted. I really don't know what any of that means. Somebody told me it'd be better. I have become less and less of a gearhead over the past couple of years.
I think you said that because I'm like trying to track, like, yeah, wow, this is a foreign language to me. So cool.
To listen to this and be like, oh yeah, but it's definitely not me. Um, with ideally brand new strings on it. I want the strings to be zingy. Um, so that goes into on my pedal board. It's just a HX Stomp, which is like a multi-effect kind of digital amp processor pedal into an Aguilar tone hammer. So the Stomp is doing most of the processing, and then the tone hammer is more just like surgical EQ, depending on the day or my string life or what the ears are like. That goes straight into the PA. Historically, I've not used an amp. Of late, there have been some amps backlined, and I've really kind of been enjoying turning that thing up. That's been pretty fun. We'll see if that lasts or not. But I've always preferred not to have one just because the bass responds a little bit more consistently across the neck without it. Uh,
On the HX Stomp, do you have a different setting for every song, or just one setting the whole night?
Basically, it's one setting. Not to be this guy, but it's on a website called Sound Shop. It's the everyday preset. There's a few others in there that I use. I basically am using that. It's a pretty dirty sound, and then there's an additional drive and an octave pedal, and I'll use different combinations of that depending on the thing. My clean tone is pretty dirty though, so it's normally staying like pretty within that. Yeah, that goes to the PA. I travel with a Moog Sub Fatty, just like a 25 key synth bass. Really cool.
And you're
Uh,
in the live shows as well.
it's definitely, I don't always fly with it, so sometimes there might be something else backlined. But
Mhm.
if I prefer for the Sub Fatty, even over like the Sub 37 or something like that. Um, and then I'm using All Clear Spire in-ears,
Okay.
which I think is 6 drivers. They're great. I love All Clear. I might not get them again. That I've had them a long time, so I think they don't fit amazing
Mm.
anymore. Um, and then the playback rig is 2 MacBook Pros. The A computer is an M2, and the B computer is like Intel, I think. Um, it's been there a long time. The B computer's a little bit rugged at the moment. Um, and then that goes into a Play Audio 12, and which allows me to run redundant, which is really nice. And then the controller that I'm currently using is an Icon iControl, just like a sort of lesser known MIDI controller. But I like it because one, it's $80, so you can get a lot of them, and if it breaks, it's not a big deal. And it's got 8 faders on it, which I use a lot to control like track volumes and flow moments, and then reverb levels or a low pass filter, stuff like that. And then it also has 4 banks of 16 pads. which gives me like 64 assignable pads. So I can assign those to transport controls or different locators, just depending on what the night needs, different things.
So
Uh,
you're running playback and tracks, but you're not the primary MD, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, which is quite interesting and quite fun and has been a learning experience. And over time, I think we learned like a really great workflow with that. That's actually like quite fun, where
Yeah.
we figure out stuff and um yeah, figure it out kind of all on the fly together, which is really fun.
And how much are you alternating between your P bass and the synth bass? Are you kind of 50-50?
No, I would say 90-10 maybe. I'm using the synth bass for a handful of different moments in the show. And occasionally maybe I get a little wild bone in me and maybe during like a flow moment I might like do something with it. But I'm using it very little. I used to use it more and I just kind of feel exposed if it's not sitting in front of me. I just like having it there, knowing I can use it if I need. And then, yeah, I maybe use it for 10% of things.
Yeah, cool. Last question for you. Can you share one of your most embarrassing stage moments?
Okay, I saw this in the email and I am actually really excited about this because I've always wanted to tell this story and I've been too embarrassed to tell it. I
Perfect.
keep meaning to do something with it on the AICS, but I just am a little nervous, I think, still to admit it. So here goes. Last year we were at Forward Conference, which is outside of Atlanta. And this is, I think, the same week that I had started AICS. And I was feeling some pressure from starting it in that, oh no, this means now I can no longer make a mistake because I was still figuring out what it all looked like. And I sort of, it was like, oh no, am I positioning myself as an expert on this thing? Like, how does this go? Over time, I've learned that's not, doesn't have to be the case. We're all in this together. But early on, I wasn't quite sure. So I was really feeling this pressure of like, you can't really make mistakes anymore because now you're saying that you know how to do this. So we're at Forward Conference, and at the time, we're kind of doing this again combination of things where it's like sort of a flow moment, but we've got some tricks on it. We're doing this Cody song called He Was to Come, and then we're looping the verse while this video plays, and then eventually we go to this like so sick uh sky symbols moment in Worthy by Elevation. Then it's like there's a first sky symbols moment, and then it builds, and then we get to a second sky symbols moment. So basically the whole set, it's like we're playing 30 minutes and it's been quite intense. Like we start off with this old Tomlin song, really drony, really pad heavy. Like, I mean, it's like one of the most just intense, serious like sets we've ever played. There's no fast songs. Okay. It's like we're in this thing, we're doing it. Like we're gonna really do this. So the whole set is kind of built that at the 25th minute, like at the very end, we're gonna peak with this sky symbols moment in where again it's just been really like serious and big moment, and we're all like kind of feeling nervy because we the Tomlin song was old and I don't think I'd ever heard it, and it was a lot of chords and I was trying to remember all of them, and it just was like don't mess this up, like we're in an arena, it's just a lot of pressure in general. um I again have just started AICS, so I'm at the time thinking, oh, I'm going to film some of these sets and I'll put them on the Instagram. So this is the very first one that I'm filming. So I'm feeling nervous about how that's like behind me, just all these sort of nerve things. So we do Here's to Come. This video plays, this scripture from Revelation. We're vamping. We get to Holy. First sky symbols moment goes well. We're building for like, it felt like 10 minutes. It was probably like two, but it's a long build. Finally, it gets called. We're going to do the second sky symbols. Again, this is the peak of this very serious set that we have played. First note of the sky symbols moment. I've never had this happen before in my life. I don't know. I still to this day do not what happened. My play audio 12. I'm not joking. On the downbeat of the last sky symbols moment, my play audio 12 spits out white noise.
Oh no.
Like, so I run tracks at negative, I meter everything in the session to be negative 18. Supposedly that's like the highest fidelity output for Ableton, leaves room for front of house monitors to do some gain staging. A lot of different reasons for that. So it all the tracks are pretty gained up to get to unity. My Play Audio 12 spits white noise, or Carrie and Cody's Play Audio 12 spits white noise at what I would assume to be unity. So 18 dB louder. The loudest sound I've ever heard in my life over the PA in all of our ears. And it would not stop until I basically unplugged the tracks rig, like using if I remember right, using like the PowerCon cable, just like popped it. Like I was like hitting the space bar, trying to get it. I closed the laptops. It wasn't an Ableton thing. Like it just, there were no laptops connected at this point. Um, yeah, just spitting like the loudest white noise ever.
Did you know
Somewhere there,
it was you right away?
do what?
You know it was your rig right away?
Yeah. It took me, I think so. This has been about a year and a half ago. So I think it took probably, it was a good 4 or 5 seconds maybe before I could get it to stop. And then I need to probably find, I've never watched the video back. I'm too scared to. I also have a recording of our in-ears from that. And I know for a fact that I, with a very shaky voice, said in the talk back, like, I need some help over here. The reason I know that is I had a buddy there, this guy Bear, Sean Richardson is his name. I've known him for a long time, and he was part of the house crew, and he was on ears. And he walked off stage, and I'm like so embarrassed because I've just started this thing, and I'm supposed to be knowing what I'm doing here, and I had no idea what had happened. And it's the peak of this really serious set, and I've just blasted 20,000 people with white noise, like had to just absolutely crush everybody's ears. And I just remember him saying, like, I've never heard you sound like you sounded over the talk back. Just like, I need help, please. Somebody come over here. I don't know what's going on.
Did everybody keep going or did they stop and
No, we kept going. Um, yeah, we just kind of plowed on like normal. And I think if I remember right, we did the Sky Symbols moment, probably the band, built back in. We probably played one more chorus and then walked off stage. So I was in the dressing room hiding, like maybe 2 minutes later. Yeah, it was that was a tough one to swallow. Like, especially the timing, I figure it was God keeping me humble, reminding me that, the point of all of this is just that I help people and it's you're not presenting as an expert at all.
that is pretty ironic timing. That's very
Yeah.
fun.
I may have to post the video. I know it's gonna kind of pop off. And I, I like to think I'm a humble person, but I don't know if I'm quite that humble. Like,
You're not going to be that humble.
it's gonna be painful. Yeah. I've never told anybody else about that. And I think most people in the room probably thought it was a front of house issue. So I've successfully avoided taking responsibility for this until this moment. So
Now the cat's out of the bag.
cat's out of the bag. Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy one. That couldn't have been any. I still to this day have never had that happen. I've never heard of anybody having that happen. Have no idea what caused it. Uh, yeah, crazy one.
Tech failures happen anytime, all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's a hint. There's certainly that's the most recent one. There are certainly so many stories of things going wrong or playing the worst bum note you could possibly play or walking on stage having forgotten something, like so many embarrassing, I've done so much embarrassing stuff
Yeah.
on stage over the years. So yeah, it happens to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dan, I have so enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much. If people want to know more about you, your music, Ableton is Confusing slash the new name, where can they find more information?
Yeah, the best place would be either abletonIsConfusingSometimes.com or Instagram, TikTok at Ableton is Confusing Sometimes. My personal Instagram is Dan Alber. I'm there. I'm around. Yeah, if you message me in the AICS DMs, I'm pretty active in those. Say hey. ask questions. Happy to help any way I can.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And thank you so much for taking all this time and really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Creative Tides podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow us on social media so you don't miss any upcoming resources. If you'd like to support Creative Tides, including events, workshops, and tools like this podcast, head to www.creative-tides.com to make a donation. Thanks so much for being a part.